Okay, so I want to pivot here because we have you here and there's another story that we should talk about. And that's when we talk about ticks and more tick bites and tick-borne illnesses. And this is always a concern, but is one that people really need to be aware of.
Much more, every year it seems, and the reason for that is climate change. Ticks are moving further and further north. We have less days below 0 degrees where the ticks are less active. So we're seeing more tick bites and we're seeing more tick-borne illnesses, the big one being Lyme disease. There's another one called anaplasmosis. There are a few others, but those are the ones that we are seeing the most of. And people need to be aware that they can get these tick bites and that if they do get a tick bite, they are susceptible to getting one of these infections. Couple of things about that. People often don't realize that it takes about 24 hours of the tick being attached to the body for it to successfully transmit the infection. So you have a window of opportunity, even if you've been bitten, to actually remove the tick and prevent the infection. That's really important for people to know. And the other thing is that there are ways for people to prevent getting bitten. So just that awareness, I think, is the first thing in preventing the tick bite. And even after the tick bite, you can remove the tick and there's things you can do.
So I want to talk about, because you mentioned two different types of illnesses. I think a lot of people are very aware of Lyme disease because there's a lot of awareness around that one. But I want to highlight one thing, is that a lot of people will also wait to see that ring.
Correct.
But that ring isn't always present, if I'm correct.
Right. So, what happens with Lyme disease, so this is a bacterial infection. The tick is a vector. The tick is, bites a deer or bites a mouse, gets the bacterial infection. It doesn't kill the tick, but the tick is infected. The tick bites us. The bacteria finds its way into the tick's saliva. As they feed on our blood, from the saliva to our blood, the bacteria gets transmitted. We get the infection. So first, it has to be the right type of tick, the black-legged tick. Here in Ontario, it's a deer tick. In BC, we call it the western black-legged tick. So not all ticks have the infection. Not all black-legged ticks will be infected. But if you happen to be bitten by a tick that's infected, and if it's latched on for 24 hours or more, it can pass on the infection. And if it does, within 3 to 30 days, the person will get sick. It feels like a virus: fever, body aches, headache, feeling unwell. In 70 to 80% of cases with Lyme disease, you will get this very classic rash that you described with a red center and then concentric red circles, this target-like rash. So most people get it, but there's that 20 to 30% who don't get it. So just because you don't get the rash doesn't mean you haven't contracted Lyme disease. And this other one we talked about, anaplasmosis, you get all the other symptoms, but you don't get the rash. So you won't necessarily get the rash. If you've had a tick bite and you feel unwell, you must see a doctor, and you will probably be treated on speculation, because if we know or we suspect one of these infections, they're actually relatively easy to treat. The problem is that the person often doesn't become aware and doesn't seek care, and then we get into some of the concerns about chronic Lyme infection and the chronic consequences of Lyme disease.
Dr. Samir Gupta, always good to see you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure.